Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Christophe Fauger. Welcome to Mastering Money. This is session 3, the gift economy. Lecture number 11, relationships and emotional commitment, conscious and sustainable networks. Let's begin with a definition of what a network is. So a network is a group of entities, people, things, living entities connected by links. We have examples of famous networks like the business network LinkedIn, social network Facebook, and energy networks that we are familiar with, and the dark side of networks with terror networks. So we have items and peoples like individual, businesses, banks, airports, cell phones that are linked with these particular connections. And for a network to be created and to be thriving, you need to have certain conditions in terms of their members working for the good of the network. So the good of the network must be set as a goal on top of the goal of finding personal interest in participating in a network. And the members must realize that without exchanges or reciprocity, the network will lose its viability or its raison d'être. Let's focus now on business networks. And a business network is a group of individuals that are connected for the purpose of growing their business circle and undertaking mutually beneficial projects. Each member, and that's a very important point, must really understand the dynamics of the network and find its place, its rightful place within it, so that they can know how they can help the members of the network and the network as a whole thrive. In 2006, Terry Besser and his team did a study of 29 business networks in the American Midwest, and they find that the most successful networks had members with higher status position in the community, that these networks had more trust that was pervasive in the network, and they shared common values. They had a greater frequency of communication between members, and that there was a greater exchange of resources and information, as well as a greater pooling of resources. Now let's focus on what I'm going to call conscious networks. And conscious networks is a grouping of 4 main pillars. And of course, these pillars will eventually support the building of the conscious network and support the demonstration of ethical values and what I'm going to call mindfulness, which is the way to do business in a mindful way, and a sustainable vision of the network. So what are those 4 pillars? The first one is emotional commitment, and that's really the base for any enterprise to be successful. That the members need to be emotionally committed to the network. And that means that they must demonstrate passion, enthusiasm, desire to share, desire to co-create. The second pillar is what I'm going to call the true gift spirit. And that means that the members of the network, if they behave in a way that they are giving without demanding anything in return, this will foster sort of a goodwill within the network, and they stand to probably be receiving a lot from the other network members and from the network as a whole. Now, without this reciprocity, so if there is gift and none of these gifts are reciprocated, the network wouldn't be viable. So it is also important that there is this reciprocity within the network. The third pillar is trust. And of course, trust takes time to build, and it takes time to build among members. So it is through action and through demonstration of keeping your word, of delivering, that you will build trust and that the trust capital within the network will increase and become stronger. The fourth pillar is collective intelligence. And if the members of the network have this level of social perceptiveness, that means they understand what they can bring to the network. They understand their place and how to play a role within the network, and what, how their actions can really further whatever endeavors there is. Then the network can actually set out to achieve great goals that could not be achieved by any particular individual, and they can solve really complex situations. So I'm proposing to you, I'm inviting you to do this exercise about exchanging money and emotional commitment. And this is a demonstration of the relationship that we have with money, and the fact that money can create a disconnect in relationships. So let's see what this exercise is about. First stage, you're going to be bartering an item with a partner of your choice, and this item has to have some sort of emotional content in it. It doesn't have to be a family heirloom or something really precious, but it's something that you've invested time or effort into it. Has a particular value to you. So it doesn't have to be a very expensive item. And so you're going to barter that item. You're going to give it in exchange to a gift that your partner is going to give you. And please do not tell in advance what you intend to give them. Then at the end, when you have done that exchange and you have to exchange gifts, you will write about half a page about this experience, what you expected, whether or not you were surprised, and the feelings that you felt. Now in the second stage, you're going to renew the experience, but now instead of exchanging item, you're going to exchange money. Sounds a little bizarre, but this is what I'm asking you to do. And the very important thing is that you're not going to tell your partner how much you intend to give them. So you're just going to come to the game together with having decided in advance what amount of money you're going to give to that person, and you are going to do the exchange. Again, you're going to separately write your experience on a piece of paper, on a document, and relate how much or what you felt and if you were surprised. And then lastly, in the last stage, you're going to compare the results of these two stages. You're going to debrief each other. You're going to see, you're going to share, what it felt in the first exchange of gifts, the second one, and you're going to try to answer the question, what information would have been more useful for both of you in each of these exchanges to make this experience a bit more pleasurable. So what's behind this exercise is the idea of emotional commitment and money. In fact, Ellen Luke, the author of The Way of Woman, has observed that money is a symbolic means of exchange. So it carries a lot of meaning, a lot of psychological burden. And therefore it belongs to the feminine principle of relatedness. If therefore the goddess Moneta, which is essentially this principle of relatedness, if it is missing, that third transpersonal factor which gives meaning to every exchange between human beings, may it be physical, emotional, spiritual, or financial, then we are in acute danger. So Ellen Luke points to the fact that money tends to, in transactions, tend to create an emotional disconnect, and we have to be wary of that. So if we talk about within the context of a conscious network, and we talk about that pillar of trust, and the pillar of trust, and we're going actually to connect that idea with the idea of money. Let's start with trust, which is the willingness to put yourself in a vulnerable position. Doesn't have to be an extremely vulnerable position, And this means that you believe that the counterpart to whatever transaction you are going to be effecting, that counterpart is going to hold true to their word, and they're going to deliver on their promises. But in the Western world, money tends to create an emotional disconnect between the people who are exchanging. So that tends to remove sort of the trust factor. Money itself doesn't bring any evidence of the relational commitment, which is also an important factor in the network, conscious network. And it doesn't bring any evidence of the relational commitment of the person giving the money towards the person who produces the real goods and services in exchange. In fact, sometimes the use of money actually demonstrates the opposite. It demonstrates the fact that people want to maintain a relational gap between them and the person they're transacting with. So what does it mean? That means that it's very important for within a conscious network, when it is about money, when there are projects involving money, to be aware of that money creates this emotional disconnect, and that if we want to maintain trust, if we want to maintain the relational commitment within the network, we have to be aware of the power of money that money has on our psyches. And moreover, it makes it tempting for people to accumulate it. So in the concept of the gift, which is the second pillar of the conscious network, there again, bringing money into the situation may create trouble, because in the concept of a gift, the true gift necessitates a reversing of the idea of accumulation, which is natural tendencies for people who have money. And also it needs to reverse this emotional disconnect linked to money. So a true gift must be based on trust as well. So there are several connections that we're making within the context of conscious network and connections with money. Now the fourth pillar is collective intelligence, and we're going to talk also within the context of money. So collective intelligence is the intelligence that emerges from connection and relationships, and it enables solutions to complex problems that are beyond the power of individual minds to solve. Here are two videos by one by Thomas Malone, who heads a center on collective intelligence at MIT, and another one by François Noubel, who talks about the we inside the I and the idea of creating integral wealth, that is, wealth based on using collective intelligence and using the leverage of collective intelligence. In fact, you see a lot of enterprises that have been built, especially in France. You have BlaBlaCar, which is a company that relies on collective intelligence in the sense of recognizing that some people could actually share space in their automobile to transport others, and makes use of that knowledge and that opportunity to create a market. And then we have Airbnb, where you have exchanges of living spaces around the globe, and you seize upon the opportunities that people have, unoccupied apartments of houses, and then they are desirous to travel around the world. So that relies on the collective intelligence and collective information around the opportunities for these to be transacting. So what are the qualities of a conscious, and I'm going to call it a sustainable network, which is another characteristic that's very important. So those are to have noble intentions and purposes, to apply ethical values and approach relationships and projects from a sustainable standpoint, that trust is one of the pillars of that network, to use inspiration rather than force. And a very important aspect that we talked about is, how is money included in this picture? Well, that members really realize the power of money and have some sort of mastery of money, within the relationship that are established in the network, so that they have some sort of maturity and a way to understand what money is, what it does in terms of its potential effect, destructive effects in terms of disconnect, and cultivate the true gifts, which are promoting each member's freedom to thrive and to evolve within its own ecosystem. And finally, to use the leverage of collective intelligence to produce solutions which are going to enable to increase the welfare of individual members and of the collective, and leverage also the notion of generosity, which is exemplified by the theme of pay it forward, so that you create a leverage and possibly use the network possibly to create more wealth for everybody. So I'm going to leave you with this concept of Mastermind Intentional Alliance. And this is a concept at the source, which was invented by Napoleon Hill about 75 years ago in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And he called it the Mastermind Alliance. And he defined it as the coordination of knowledge and effort of two or more people who work toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. So what is the Mastermind Intention Alliance? The small group of peers committed to use the power of collective intelligence and intention to mentor and support each other in their business endeavors or projects. So what are the basic principles? That members must have a specific project that they need help with. That members must be committed to help each other complete these projects. That each member creates an action plan for which other members will hold them accountable and they will hold themselves accountable for. And that members support each other to overcome limitations, may they be material or mental limitations, and to overcome mental or real obstacles. And that member may use the collective power of directed mental meditation or visualization to focus on intention on a person in the group that may need a particular type of help. So that would be the next level of using the power of the mind to help people in a way overcome some of these obstacles. So thank you very much for your attention.